What's going on, Babylonians? It's me, Songs of Brains, back with another Tiny Tina Wonderlands video to be able to bring to you, and today we're actually going to be covering probably one of the best shotguns that's actually in this game, and it is a quest reward, so therefore you're actually able to guarantee getting the first time, but I would recommend holding off doing the quest until you reach level 40, complete the game, and all that, because this gun can drop as chaotic, and I believe you may be able to get it volatile, but I haven't been able to get a confirmed source on that just yet, but I definitely will be checking the vending machines for it. So before we get into it, make sure you drop a like and a subscribe, really does help the channel out, and let's get right into it. Okay, so the gun that we're actually going to be talking in question is the Last Rites of Sunless Depths. Now, this gun is absolutely mental. Basically, this gun is a shotgun that's able to, it works like a typical shotgun. It's not one of those parables that shoot out energies or anything like that. Basically, it will shoot out up to 9 pellets, and what those pellets will do is when they actually hit an enemy, they'll then ricochet off and bounce off and hit another enemy. Now, this comes in a frost or cryo element, depending on which one you want to be able to classify it as. Basically, what this does is it inflicts freeze onto the first enemy, and then it inflicts freeze onto the second enemy. Now, what I wanted to do is be able to make a build that was around this, and it ended up becoming an insane mobbing potential. Now, unfortunately, the gun I don't think by itself is very good for being able to take on bosses, so obviously, you know, replace any of the other guns that are currently in this loadout with what obviously your preferred boss killer, but overall this is one of the better, it's probably one of the easiest clearing chaos dungeon builds that I've actually put together, if we take out the fact that we've got Ambihextra still and the Buffmeister and all that kind of thing. So let's have a quick look into it. So obviously we've got the Last Rites of Sunless Depths, as you can see in front of us. Comes with a quite high damage, it has 9 pellets, the accuracy is fairly decent, and it will get more accurate the longer you be able to shoot it, because it is one of those Hyperius weapons. Has a mag size of 10, fire rate is kind of on the slow side to be able to start with, but it will actually start ramping up, especially with this build that we've currently got going, and the reload time is kind of respectable, kind of slow as well I suppose, but 2.6 seconds. The red text is, but it's time for you to be able to find it on your own. I haven't looked into the red text, I'm not entirely sure what those are, so make sure if it is something that you do know about, make sure you drop it in the comment section, let me know, and let everyone else know that's come to be able to watch this video. So what I've done with this, and what we'll do is we'll go into the skill tree first, and then we'll come back to the gear. So the skill tree is basically, I've gone for a Spore Warden, and I've gone for Berserker. Basically the two classes that respect all this ricochet, and the one that also respects all the frost and freeze damage that is going to be dealing out. Now, I've gone for Barrage to be able to trigger pretty much every single one of the annoyance or the enchantments that I've got on this build. And also on top of that, it's also going to help out with the Wrath of Nature skill that we're going to be looking at in a second. So this kind of like triggers it off first, and then the build starts to get going. So the first and foremost, let's have a look into the Spore Warden, because this is the main class that we actually went into. So the first 5 points went into Bounty of the Hunt to be able to get, as a kill skill, increase our action skill cooldown rate by up to 20%. So basically the barrage will come back a lot quicker. Then we went 5 points into Eagle Eye to be able to maximise the gun damage and the gun handling to be able to help out there. Because of the Capstone, we want to be able to get crit shots, so therefore we've gone to 5 into Bullseye to be able to increase our crit chance as much as possible. After that, we've gone for Quiver of Holding to be able to increase our magazine size by 30%, which only works out to be around about 3 shells. But what this also does is give us some ammo regen on top of that, which means that while we're actually shooting, some of the shells will actually be replaced in the gun, so you actually do fire more than 13 shells before reloading. And obviously this can vary depending on your fire rate, which if we get into with Windrunner, our movement speed and our fire rate is increased for a duration every single time we get a kill. And this stacks up to 2 times, which means our fire rate can be increased by up to 24%, as well as our movement speed on top of that. I've gone for Medicinal Mushroom, one because it actually helps us to be able to have a little bit of survivability just in case something goes wrong, but also if we do get picked up by the companion, we also gain increased damage dealt for a small duration to be able to help us out with that fight. I've gone for Headhunter to be able to increase the gun damage that's dealt to critical hit areas by a nice 25%. It's a very nice, worthwhile point to be able to pick up. And then we've gone for Wrath of Nature, which is the main thing that's actually to be able to take from this. Whenever we deal ability damage to an enemy, the affected enemy takes increased damage from all sources for a duration. And this damage increases up to 108% because we've gone for 3 points into this, and we get 3 points from our armor mod. The last one to be able to notice is Play the Angles, and obviously this pairs really well with Wrath of Nature, where the gun critical hits have a chance to be able to ricochet, and dealing reduced ability damage to a nearby enemy, and then ricochet shots also have a small chance to be able to ricochet on top of that an additional time. So we're not too focused on the damage that this ricochet is actually there to offer. What we're there to be able to use this for, in case you aren't aware, because this deals ability damage while we're actually shooting our gun, and the ricochets work that way, then the Wrath of Nature actually procs, because every single enemy that gets hit with that ricochet now takes that increased damage of 108%. So if we get quickly swap it to Berserker, the main, like I said, this has quite a nice bit of synergy for the fact that obviously we've gone for Barrage, which is actually quite a quick charging skill. It has 3 charges. It's quite easy to be able to proc all of our enchants, but it also works really well with Rage of the Ancients, because that when we activate our action skill, we become enraged, dealing additional frost damage, which the gun already deals, and activating an additional skill on top of that increases the enraged timer, so it really just helps us out to be able to increase our damage potential with the Frost Shotgun. So we've gone for 5 points straight into Ancestral Frost to be able to increase that frost damage even further. We've gone for 3 points in Icebreaker to be able to deal even more damage to enemies as they get slowed, so this goes up to another 30% on there. We've gone for 5 points into the Old Ways, because this is a shotgun, we want to be able to get in close range, therefore we're dealing additional damage and we get damage reduction the closer we are, so this works up to a 30% for both when very close. We've gone for Cold Snap to be able to increase our movement speed and our frost efficiency. So the faster we can chill enemies to be able to get them close to frozen, the more damage we deal with Icebreaker and all that kind of good stuff. So that has a nice synergy, and it also increases our movement speed, and we also get an additional bonus on top of that when we are in range, which obviously we do have with Barrage. And then lastly, we just have 1 point left over, so I'll put it into Relentless Rage to be able to keep ourselves alive, so that our Medicinal Mushroom can actually come over and be able to pick us up, just in case there's something that actually goes amiss there. Now if we head over to the inventory, now obviously the main thing we are using is the shotgun, but obviously you choose the rest of your loadout to be able to decide on what your main boss killer would be, just in case you actually want to be able to go into that kind of thing. But we've gone for basically all the enchants to be able to increase our gun damage or elemental damage, just because the gun itself cannot have an enchant, and it's very upsetting that that's the case. I genuinely think this would be so much higher, and this will be pretty much on everyone's wish list and all that kind of thing for this game, if it was able to have an enchant on itself, but it kind of does hold it back a little bit for the fact that we can't get some additional damage from like spell or action skill like cooldown and all that kind of thing. So unfortunately we can't put one on there, so therefore I've gone for action skill start, increase our gun damage by 40% for 10 seconds. The next enchant we've got on our Cursed Wits to be able to increase our elemental damage by 35%, and then we've also got a Buffmeister, which also has action skill as active, increase our frost damage by 50%. Now I've gone for a freezing Buffmeister to be able to increase that freeze damage even further, to be able to then get put back into all the calculations and all that kind of side of things. I wish this had 2 spell charges. Unfortunately I haven't been able to find one of those, so if you do find one of those, definitely would recommend that you swap that out, but I do think that freeze is probably the best one to be able to go into for that. Now if we look at the rest of the build, obviously we've got 2 rings, both with gun damage, and the main thing we're looking out for is this shotgun critical hit damage, because obviously we're primarily using the shotgun, but feel free to roll with anything else that you want, obviously if you are looking to be able to use a different kind of boss killer, but I've always made sure that my shotgun critical hit damage is always on there. Obviously we've mentioned the Cursed Wit, and the Cursed Wit is obviously very good for the fact that we're going to be up close to enemies anyway, so therefore if our ward does get depleted we gain an additional 100% increased damage dealt to nearby enemies. We've gone for the class mod or the armor mod to be able to increase Spore Ward and Berserker. It's got 3 points into Wrath of Nature, it's also got 2 into a different kind of skill as well, but that's neither here or there. I think that was one that just increases fire rate a little bit more. Unfortunately, this isn't a god roll just yet. 1, because it's not chaotic or volatile, but 2, because the only damage increase that it's currently offering is the very bottom one, which is all damage dealt. So I would be looking for one that does actually have gun damage as well as all damage dealt to be able to help me out there. Maybe something with reload speed, but yeah, unfortunately I'm looking for a better one of this, but because it has 3 points into Wrath of Nature, I can't take this off right now. It just offers so much damage versatility right there for me. And then the last thing that we need to look at is obviously the necklace, which comes with frost damage, berserker power, and all damage dealt, and also gives us a little bit more loot luck, which is quite nice. So obviously the frost damage increases the damage that the shotgun's going to be doing, and the berserker power increases the amount of frost damage we're going to be doing while enraged. So therefore it actually offers quite a nice synergy. We're going to see quite a big chunk and quite increase in terms of the damage output we're going to have just from purely having this necklace on. So that pretty much wraps up this whole build that I've currently got going for you. Basically, I just want to be able to ricochet shots here, there, and everywhere, and I still will be working on it because I do like the idea, I do like the premise of this build. I think it's pretty much got mobbing down to a T. Unfortunately, I just need to figure out what to do with it when it comes to bossing. Like I said, it can get the job done. It's just going to take a long time compared to some of the other builds that are currently out there in terms of like the meta, in terms of like what the other kind of like better classes or better weapons to be able to use. So it's by no means is it a bad build. it definitely shines when it comes to mobbing. It just kind of falls a little bit flat when it comes to bossing, but it can still get the job done. So I hope you've enjoyed, I hope you've learned something useful with ourselves, and I hope this is a build that you would potentially pick up and give it a go. It is a lot of fun, and I genuinely have been struggling to find myself a reason to be able to go back to my ambihextrous, even though the ambihextrous can pretty much tackle everything. It's just so much fun to be able to see all the bullets just whiz around, and to be able to take on one target and just watch a whole room die because of all the ricochets that are going to be happening. So thank you all so much for watching. The game save file will be made available in our Discord, so make sure you join us there. The link will be found in the video description down below. And that just leaves to say thank you all so much for making your way to the end of the video. Thank you all to the Babylonian family, as always, for their continued support. It really does mean the world to us. And as always, keep yourself safe, keep yourselves well, and I'll see you all on that next video.